All right, so welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some pretty wild current events you sent over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like U.S. politics and business, but then it gets all mixed up with like tech and global stuff.
Sounds about right for these days. What do we got?
Well, we've got legal fights, economic policy debates, even some AI drama. Like one judge is actually saying the White House is ignoring their ruling.
Whoa, really? Straight up ignoring it.
Yeah, and get this, plastic straws might be making a comeback in the government.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued now.
I knew you'd be into this. Let's bring in our expert who is like the master of connecting the dots and making sense of all this chaos.
I knew what I can. And yeah, looking at these sources you sent, it's amazing how even things that seem totally unrelated are all part of, these bigger trends that are shaping things like power dynamics in governments, how policies ripple across borders, even ethical issues with new tech.
All in one deep dive.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the story that feels like it's straight out of a news alert.
Okay, hit me.
A federal judge, right, in Rhode Island, is saying that the White House is defying a court order.
Huh.
And it's all because of this executive order that's basically frozen funding for like 2,600 programs that were already, federally approved.
Oh, wow. So this isn't just about budgets then, is it? This sounds like a real clash between the branches of government, executive versus judicial.
Totally.
And, the judge even warned about, quote, irreparable harm. That's serious stuff. We're talking potentially programs losing funding, services being disrupted, people who rely on those programs, well, who knows what happens to them.
It's kind of crazy because it's like the administration keeps losing these legal challenges, but they just keep pushing forward anyway.
Right. It's a risky strategy, that's for sure. Because if you keep ignoring judicial rulings, what does that do to public trust in the government, And, it could even, lead to a constitutional crisis, right? If the checks and balances aren't working.
Wow, that's a bit scary to think about. Okay. Shifting gears a little, our sources also point out some specific cases that raise some serious ethical questions.
Always fun. Let's hear it.
So, two examples really stand out. First, you've got New York City's mayor, Eric Adams. Remember how he had those corruption charges against him? Well, the Justice Department just dropped them.
Huh.
And then we've got former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. He was convicted on corruption charges, did time, and full pardon.
Okay, now those are interesting. It feels like there's a whole lot going on beneath the surface there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, what's the real story here?
Well, in the case with Mayor Adams, some people are saying that, dropping the charges was political, like maybe because they see him as an ally on certain immigration policies, so they let him off the hook.
And Blagojevich, well, he was a pretty vocal supporter after he got out, right?
Yeah, and some people think that might have been a factor in his pardon.
So it's like, are we rewarding loyalty over, actual integrity?
Right? Like if you align yourself with the right people, the rules don't apply to you anymore.
It's troubling, to say the least.
Yeah, because what does that say about our institutions? About accountability? Like, looking at these cases, you have to wonder if we're seeing a shift in how we view corruption,
Yeah, a shift in the wrong direction. It's like slowly eroding our trust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's switch gears again, talk about global stuff. America First policies and their impact on the world.
All right, sure.
One of the sources, it was The Economist, actually. They had this great analogy for a recent trade decision. They said it was like using a shotgun instead of a sniper rifle.
Oh, I like that. What were they talking about?
They were talking about the tariffs, the 25% ones on steel and aluminum imports.
Right.
The target was supposed to be China, but then it ended up affecting everyone, even U.S. allies like Canada, Mexico, the EU.
Yeah, it's like that saying, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers.
Exactly. So higher prices for consumers, businesses, not just in the U.S., but globally.
And the thing is, this kind of protectionist approach, it often backfires. Other countries, they retaliate with their own tariffs, and then suddenly you've got a full-blown trade war. Hurts everyone involved.
And, the global economy is so interconnected now. Any disruption like that can have, huge ripple effects on jobs, investments, even political stability.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about how these policies can actually destabilize things on a global scale.
Makes you think. Okay, let's lighten the mood a bit. One of our sources, they call it a fight for the future of AI.
Ooh, dramatic. Who's fighting?
Elon Musk and the OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman.
Oh, wow. Okay, what's the story there?
So Musk offered to buy OpenAI, like the ChatGPT company, for, get this, $97.4 billion.
Yeah, that'll get their attention.
But then Altman counters. He offers to buy X, formerly Twitter, for way, way less than what Musk paid.
Whoa, it's a real battle of the titans. But, is this just ego or is there something more to it?
Well, there's definitely some ego, right? But I think it's also about fundamentally different approaches to AI. Like, Musk has been really vocal about the dangers of AI if it's not controlled. Remember, he even called for a pause on some AI research?
I do, yeah.
And then Altman, he believes OpenAI can be like the leader in responsible AI development, thinks the benefits outweigh the risks. So yeah, it's more than just a business deal. It's about two very different visions for the future of AI.
For sure. And depending on, like, who wins this fight, well, the whole trajectory of AI development could change. I mean, the possibilities, the risks.
It's a lot to think about. Okay, let's shift to the Middle East. Things are, as always, complicated.
As always.
One source reports that Hamas has suspended a prisoner exchange and they're threatening to break the ceasefire with Israel.
Oh, wow. Talk about high stakes.
And at the same time, we've got this like super important meeting happening at the White House, the U.S. President and King Abdullah of Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan's role in trying to keep things stable there is crucial. But recent U.S. policies in the region, especially regarding Palestinian rights, haven't exactly helped. A lot of tension, distrust. This meeting could either calm things down or make everything worse.
So yeah, tons of uncertainty and the potential for things to, well, escalate really quickly. We'll definitely want to keep an eye on that. Okay, I think we need a breather after all that. How about something a bit lighter? Still thought-producing, though.
Go for it.
Okay, so get this. The president signed an executive order mandating the use of plastic straws in all federal government buildings.
Wait, what?
Yeah, a total reversal from the previous administration's push for, like, eco-friendly options.
Really? Plastic straws? What's the thinking there?
Well, some people think it's like a symbolic move, appealing to a certain group who think the whole paper straw thing is government overreach. But then it gets even more interesting. The president used to sell plastic straw as campaign merch.
Oh, come on.
No, seriously, it's like, even with something as simple as straws, personal preferences and politics are all mixed up.
I guess everything's political these days. But seriously, though, what does this say about environmental policy? Is this a sign of a bigger shift?
And here's the kicker. Some scientists are now saying that paper straws, even though they're supposed to be eco-friendly, might actually have harmful chemicals.
Oh, wow. Talk about unintended consequences. It's a good reminder that things are rarely black and white, What seems like a simple solution can have hidden problems.
Totally. The great straw debate continues. What do you think? Team paper or team plastic? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
I'm team use a reusable cup, personally. But yeah, let us know what you think. It's a fascinating issue with a lot more to it than meets the eye. Yeah, it's wild how something as simple as a straw can get so complicated. It makes you think about all the other choices we make every day and what kind of impact they have.
Seriously, like, are we really thinking about the consequences, or are we just going with what's convenient?
That's the question, isn't it? Individual responsibility versus convenience. It's a theme that keeps popping up. Like, remember those tariffs we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, the whole shotgun approach.
Right. Well, some experts are saying that they might be more about, political strategy than actual good economics.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, the theory is that, like, by taking a tough stance on trade, it sends a message to a certain group of voters, the ones who feel, like, left behind by globalization. It's a way to appeal to them, show strength,
But at the end of the day, it might not actually be the best move economically, right?
Exactly. It's a gamble, a political gamble with potentially high costs for everyone.
Speaking of gambles, this whole Musk versus Altman showdown is getting even more intense.
Oh, yeah. What's happening now?
Well, it's not just them anymore. Our sources are saying that other tech giants are getting in on the AI action, too. Big time.
Makes sense. It's the future, right? Who wouldn't want a piece of the pie?
Exactly. Like Google, Microsoft, Meta, they're all pouring billions into AI research and development. It's a race, like, who can innovate the fastest?
Which is exciting, but also a little scary.
Totally. Like, one source even talked about the need for, like, international regulations on AI to make sure it's developed responsibly, ethically.
Yeah, this isn't just a national issue anymore. It's global. And we need global cooperation to make sure things don't go off the rails. Think about it. AI has the potential to change everything. Healthcare, transportation, how we learn, how we entertain ourselves.
It's mind-blowing, really.
But it could also be misused or have unintended consequences we haven't even thought of yet. So yeah, we need to have some serious conversations about this. And not just with the tech companies, but with ethicists, social scientists, everyone.
It's like we're standing at the edge of something totally new, and we need to figure out the rules before we jump in.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go back to the Middle East for a minute. Our sources are saying that the current administration's approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is, well, pretty different from how things were handled before.
In what way?
Well, like, remember the whole thing about recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the U.S. embassy there?
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal. very controversial.
Right. A lot of people saw that as a sign that the U.S. was biased towards Israel, and it kind of alienated the Palestinians, which didn't exactly help the peace process, you know?
It's a delicate situation, that's for sure. And anything that tips the scales one way or the other can have ripple effects.
Yeah, one source even suggested that it might have emboldened hardliners on both sides, which makes finding a peaceful solution even harder.
It's a tough one. You've got this long, painful history, deeply held beliefs on both sides.
It's like, how do you even begin to bridge that divide?
Right. It's going to take a lot of skillful diplomacy, a willingness to compromise, and, maybe most importantly, just recognizing each other's humanity.
It makes you realize that the hardest conflicts to solve are often the ones that are rooted in, like, identity and belief.
Absolutely.
Okay, last but not least, let's circle back to the plastic straw controversy one last time. I know it might seem small, but it's really sparked a conversation about environmental policy and what it means to be a responsible consumer.
Yeah, it's fascinating how something so ordinary can become such a big deal. On the surface, it's just plastic versus paper, right? But underneath, it's about the role of government, individual choices, and how to find truly sustainable solutions in a world that's, dealing with climate change and all that.
And we learned that even the so-called eco-friendly alternatives, like those paper straws, they might not be so great either. It's complicated.
It always is. It just shows that we need to keep asking questions, and be willing to change our minds as we learn more. There's no easy answer, and sometimes it's about accepting that.
It's about being informed and making the best choices we can with the information we have. Man, we've covered a lot of ground today. It's like from political battles and global economics to AI and even plastic straws.
It's crazy how it all connects, right? You wouldn't think those things would have anything to do with each other, but
But they do. It's like this deep dive has really shown how complex everything is.
totally. The world is full of information, and it's hard to know what to focus on, what's important.
Yeah, totally. So as we wrap up, what would you say is the one big takeaway you hope people listening get from all this?
That's a good question. I guess if I had to pick one thing, it would be to really think critical about the information you come across. Don't just accept things at face value,
Like, don't just scroll and believe everything you see.
Exactly. Question things. Think about different perspectives. Like, is there another side to this story? And, be aware of your own biases, too. We all have them.
It's like be your own fact checker.
That's a good way to put it. It's an ongoing process, but it's so important, especially these days.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about all these external forces that shape the world, right? Governments, economic systems, technology. But what about individual action? Can one person actually make a difference in all this?
That's the question, isn't it? It's easy to feel helpless when you look at the big picture. But history is full of examples of individuals who made a huge impact. People who started movements, challenged the status quo, inspired others.
It's like that ripple effect, right? One small action can spread and become something much bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of feeling overwhelmed, think about what you can do, even if it seems small. Have those tough conversations, support causes you believe in, make conscious choices in your daily life,
Don't underestimate your own power to make change.
Right. Find those areas where you can make a difference and focus on that. Your actions combined with others can really create a positive shift.
That's really inspiring. It reminds me of that quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
Powerful stuff.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We hope you found it, insightful and thought-provoking. And hey, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep engaging with the world around you. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to spark the next positive change.